Welcome back to Geeky Reviews. I'm your host, Mike Wilkerson. Today I'm going to be reviewing and breaking down Season 1, Episode 1 of Superman and Lois, a show I was really hesitant on in checking out. And just when this show first got announced, I was really hesitant in terms of what they were going to do with Superman. I had pretty low expectations just because I knew what CW was going to be doing with Superman as a character. What they've already done with them, they jabbed him, put him on Supergirl to make himself look weaker, to make herself look good. And I get it, Kara and Supergirl at points in the comics are more powerful than Superman. I wasn't mad about that. I just felt like it was more, this was your icon. Why would you bring him in just to screw it up? But that's exactly what they did. So I was hesitant when he was getting his own shows. And then Lois was a very annoying character on Elseworlds, so I wasn't sure how she was going to fit in and not feel so annoying. So when they started showing trailers for this project, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised by what they showed. It was very, great on a cinematography level from what I was seeing, very good on a narrative standpoint of what we were seeing at that time. And then when I sat down to eventually watch it, I was like, okay, yeah, this feels like a reform to Superman, what Superman needs to be. And I thought it was very effective, something that took all my worries away that they were going to jab him again. And they didn't with this series. They 100% nailed Superman. Tyler Hoechlin is Superman and Clark Kent. I thought he would play that genuine, of caring, looking out for the little guy as Superman, but at the same time, genuine and caring for his town and the community as Clark Kent, and feeling like a placeholder for Martha Kent that died after she died, after Jonathan, his dad, died. I thought, it was an effective way. I thought it was also really cool to show that he really loved being in Smallville, something we've seen in other Superman media, him just growing up loving Smallville, loving the people. Again, it's just a nice touch, but it takes those familiar ideas and turns them on their head as well, which is nice. I will say that Lois was a lot more better this time around. She wasn't annoying like she was in Elseworld. Instead, they give her an actual character. It feels like a real person, someone that is caring for her family, someone that fights to do what's right, and throws you under the rug if you deserve it as a journalist. And I love that they give her almost a villain in this season with Morgan Edge. We obviously just get hints of it in this pilot, but it shows that she's caring so much for the little guy. Even before she goes to Smallville to do this, which was her old role, in Metropolis, she and Clark experienced layoffs, getting fired. Like Clark gets fired from Daily Planet and Maxie. There's just so many people that are getting laid off. And ever since Morgan Edge just took over, and it's sad. And I like this kind of, conflict setup for them. It makes sense. It just shows that Lois is looking out for the little guy and these small businesses that are getting affected by multi-billionaire conglomerates, and it's a sad world they live in. So she feels the need to actually do something so people don't lose their jobs and stuff like that because of Morgan Edge. She sees him as a threat already, which I think enriches the history of Lois a little bit more as a character. Obviously, she was never going to get fired like Clark, but at the same time, just seeing everybody just it's heartbroken for her to see everybody that she's worked with get laid off and to see the office empty, which I thought was sad. I thought them meeting at the Daily Planet was really fun and cute. Her training him, classic thing we saw before. I think just him having to leave to go to Metropolis made sense to me. Like him, as selfish as a decision as that is, to leave so shortly after his dad died, and then eventually his mom dying, and having her wanting to have him come back to Smallville. I thought, that was an effective way to bring them back into Smallville and be closer as a family, as they saw nothing was wrong with their lives in Metropolis. But I thought just them taking it back to a much more smaller town and made it feel more smaller, which I think the show needed. If we had another Metropolis Superman show, I would have been probably checked out. by episode 2 or 3, just because I was like, oh, okay, well, he's just gonna punch somebody and then it's like, oh, I win, and have that very Arrowverse cliche thing, and being a very more comic booky versus more grounded and realistic, which I prefer the more grounded realistic approach of these comics versus the more comic booky nature of them. But I do have to give a shout out to the cinematography, the action sequences that they do construct, even Superman in the opening of him trying to stop this nuclear reactor, creating like blowing and creating ice, like a big ice piece of ice, and cooling it down that way, I thought was really great. And I thought just the CGI looked realistic enough. I thought the suit was great. And again, like, I have to give shout out to the cinematography. They really nailed that. But I think what really I loved about this pilot, first and foremost, was just, him returning to a smaller town and reconnecting with friends like Lana. And so what they kind of do and turn this around is, instead of Lana like being a love interest for Clark, they're just childhood friends. They grew up together in Smallville. And she went on to marry Kyle, which is an original character for this show. Kyle is kind of that person that is really anxious to bring jobs to Smallville. He is, so supportive of the mayor. And some people see him as kind of a threat to Lois and stuff like that as well. I kind of disagree with Kyle. Like, I get that I get his intentions, but at the same time, I am on more Lois' side of, like, he did kind of ruin everything by having Morgan Edge come here and invest in towns, obviously trying to bring jobs, but they were kind of more scamish type jobs, it feels like, and we experienced that throughout the season. But I thought Kyle was good as a character for a character that was not in the comic books, that is 100% for the show, works well enough, and her marrying Lana. And I thought it was cool that they didn't have Lana and Clark be a couple. I thought Lois and Clark are much more stronger. Not that I don't like Lana and Clark together. I do like them, but I prefer Lois and Clark. I think they're a much better suited couple. And I'm glad they went with that direction. I thought it was interesting to kind of have to explore this idea with the kids, what they feel like as Superman is their dad. And having, Jordan freak out and him suffering from the social anxiety disorder, being put on pills, affected his mental health and his state, I thought worked pretty effectively. Him like really freaking out. Like, you would be freaked out once you found out that your dad is Superman, an alien from another planet. And then Jordan and him trying to uncover that was cool. And I'm normally not one for kid stuff in like superhero media. I think they dumb it down and they make them feel so kiddish, and it's never my favorite type of drama they delve into. But I think in this show, what Todd Helbing and Brent Fletcher, the executive producers and writers, have done with this project is really feel like the kids are just people. They treat the kids like people. They don't treat them like very dumbed down people. Like, they obviously go through like teenage things, like going to parties and stuff like that, and going through, kissing somebody you like, but is already taken, and does this whole like drama thing, sure, but it at least feels realistic enough. Like, it doesn't feel like it's made up for and exaggerated for a show for kids to be a part of. So, yeah, I think that was a very good aspect of it, which I was surprised by because I thought this was going to be the most weakest part of it. The villain of it was pretty solid for what they set up. Like, it's kind of like a Lex Luthor type role, but it's really not. Like, it's more like a John Henry Irons type thing. I'm pretty sure this is Steel. It's not going to be Lex Luthor, but they allude to it in the pilot that he is more Lex Luthor. And I like this beef with him. Like, the thing like they kind of set up for John Henry Irons is that he's trying to save his world, versus having Superman take over and try to destroy the world. Like, he's done this on his world, which we eventually find out, which I won't get into too much, but essentially that's kind of why he's here. I thought when this first thing was airing that they were doing something weird with Lex Luthor. I wasn't sure what they were doing, but this wasn't Lex Luthor at all. So I'm glad they kind of did that bait and switch and turned it around, taking that kind of, because I'm like, he kind of reminds me of Steel he kind of reminds me of that John Henry Irons type character, and I'm glad I was right that was John Henry Irons. Um, I'm trying to think if there's really. I think him working with the DOD works well enough. Again, the action isn't my favorite thing in this pilot, but I think it works well enough. I thought the chemistry between I think he has chemistry with pretty much everybody in his family, and I like this mentality of General Lane not wanting Superman to be a normal person. He doesn't want him to be with Clark. He doesn't want to be Clark Kent. He wants him to be Superman and save the world all the time, which I respect for that. But overall, I'm going to give Superman and Lois season 1, episode 1. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. It was really surprising in terms of what they were going for this project, but it was also really, engaging, and I loved it on a fundamental storytelling level, delving into every kind of thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. What was your favorite part of Superman Lois season 1, episode 1? If you enjoyed the review, as always, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next Geeky Reviews video. Peace.